G'day folks, Scott here, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to do something a little different. Recently I came across an American YouTuber named Chris Stuckmann, and he did a very cool video that he called Childhood Trauma about movies that scared him and messed him up as a kid. And I thought it was a really fantastic idea because that was the origins of my love of horror films, was how they affected me when I was young. So I've decided to rip off his idea and do a video myself. So this is my childhood trauma from horror films video. I had a good think back, going back as early as I could to try and think of the origins, the first things that made me afraid when it came to any kind of form of media. The furthest I could go back, and the first thing I remember would have been when I was probably 3 or 4 years old. We had a black and white TV, we're talking like, mid-70s here, and there was an old 1960s Tarzan TV show. And I specifically remember like sitting in the kitchen watching an episode with my sister and we were watching this episode. I really don't remember it. I couldn't find it. Like, I'll try and put some photos or maybe some clips of the show in there, but there was like a guy who had been stalking or killing people or something, and he had like a fake jaguar claw glove that he would put on. And I remember a shot where he was like outside looking in at Tarzan and Jane talking, and he put the claw up against a wall and kind of scratched. And I remember it really freaking me out when I was little. I haven't got any chance of finding that for you though. I wouldn't know what the episode was called, but that would be the very first thing. The next one that had a huge major impact on me was when I was young, and families still used to go to the drive-ins, which were huge in the 70s and 80s. I remember my parents taking me to a double feature at the drive-ins to see a movie, I think called Journey to the Earth's Core, like a rip-off of Journey to the Center of the Earth. I'll try and find the poster and put it up. But it was a double feature with that and another movie called The Beast Must Die, which was made in 1974. Had Peter Cushing in it. It was, pretty weird movie. But anyway, at the time, they were like, okay, we're going to sit and watch these two movies. We watched the first one. I was crazy for dinosaurs at that age, so I believe there would have been some kind of dinosaurs or something that attracted my folks to want to take this to this movie in the first place. And then, of course, because another movie was coming on, they're like, let's stay and watch this as well. What I'll try and do throughout this video is play some footage or trailers before I start talking about it, and then come back to it and talk about how it affected me. So here's The Beast Must Die.
When the moon is full, the beast must die.
One of you is a werewolf!
You must track down the werewolf. One of these 8 people is a werewolf. Can you guess which one?
Which one? Which one? Which one? Which one? Which one? Which one? Which one? Which one?
One of these 8 people will turn into a werewolf. Can you guess who it is when we stop the film for The Werewolf Break? See it, solve it, but don't tell. The Beast Must Die. Rated PG.
Now you can see that's a pretty sketchy looking 70s like camp thing. I apologize, but it's not good to find. It's not easy to find very good video footage of some of the stuff I'm going to show you today because it's so old. But so yeah, I'm little. It's Werewolf. It's the first horror movie I'd ever seen. Looking back at it now, and I only actually watched the movie in its entirety recently, and it's really camp, but I can still see why it kind of traumatized me. Like, obviously the whole werewolf thing, and it had the really quirky stop the movie and show the photos of all the people who were left and which one's the werewolf, you guess by this time, and all this kind of stuff. But there was one scene which I'll put up which freaked me out really badly, where the guy who was like the main character who'd invited all these people to their home because he knew one of them was a werewolf, he's entered someone's bedroom because they've gone missing and he's found them dead. And as a little kid, I remember it being a very bloody scene and bloody handprints on the wall, and it really, really freaked me out. The image stayed with me for ages. And as you can see, from the footage, that it's not that bad, but I was little, I reckon I would have been about 4 or 5 years old perhaps when I saw this. I reckon around 4, and it flipped me out completely. And on top of that, at the time, my grandparents, who we were staying with at the time, had a 2-story house, and on the top floor there was like, my grandparents' bedroom, my sister and my cousin's bedroom, and then a hallway that went all the way down the back of this house. And the only 2 rooms down there was an attic and a bedroom, which was my bedroom. to keep me out of the attic because the floorboards weren't there. It was like exposed beams inside of there, and it was, you know, obviously very dangerous for the kids to go in there. Instead of just putting a lock on it, my grandfather decided to tell me the room was haunted and that I shouldn't go in there for fear that ghosts would get me. So they had me sleeping across from this in a room all by myself at the other end of the house, and then I come home from this movie, and I remember like really having like the night terrors from it and freaking out for ages, hence it being, you know, with me after all this time. Years after that, with my grandparents also, my grandmother used to stay up late. They slept in separate bedrooms because he was a snorer and she would stay up all night watching tennis and stuff, and I used to sleep down in that room with her. And she used to stay up all kinds of hours watching tennis. Mad for tennis. And I remember waking up one night and she'd gone to sleep, tennis must have been over, and they were playing an old Christopher Lee Hammer horror movie called The Scars of Dracula, which was made in 1970. And I remember seeing like Christopher Lee as Dracula for the first time at a really young age, and the bloodshot eyes and the fangs and that sort of look of, you know, that look on his face, and that really freaked me out. And I turned over and sort of closed my eyes and tried to get it out of my head and went to sleep, and that freaked me out. Years later, my mum used to tape all the Hammer horror movies for me on VHS, like when I was little, and I'd get up on the weekend, so obviously much older, and watch all the old Frankensteins and Draculas and all that kind of stuff, which I've mentioned in another video. So I you know, that was definitely my catalyst for attraction to Christopher Lee being my quintessential Dracula. Now after that would be the Amityville Horror. More so because of everything surrounding it. Like, a lot of you might be too young to be aware that the Amityville Horror, for the most part, actually happened. Back when I used to write movie reviews before I was doing this YouTube thing, I wrote this big piece about how much the Amityville Horror and the whole Ed and Lorraine Warren thing and all these things that happened back when I was a child in the 70s, like, had this really big impact upon me, which is why I kind of dug the two James Wan Conjuring movies. But anyway, when the Amityville Horror itself happened, like the murder in the house with, you know, 6 people getting shot by their son and stuff, and then a year later with the Lutz family buying the house and then abandoning it a month later, that was like worldwide news. It was actually on TV. So here's me as a little kid seeing, like, you know, reputable news publications like my evening news and stuff mentioning this like haunted house in America where murder happened and so on and so forth. I remember like, whoa. And then not long after that, there was a really popular TV show when I was a kid called That's Incredible, which was an American show, kind of like a, you know, a mysterious thing, like, oh, a mother lifts a bus off her baby and all this kind of, you know, that real fantastical stuff. And they did a piece on the Amityville Horror. And I remember, and I'm going to put the footage up, it's terrible quality. I apologize for what I find. It's all I could find of it. And it was actually going against the movie. So I guess first I'll play the movie trailer.
28 days after the Lutz family moved into their dream house. They were running for their lives. What happened to them is an experience in terror you will never forget, and you will believe in the Amityville Horror.
So the movie trailer, obviously that was playing on TV and stuff when I was a kid as well, along with the news footage and everything. And then this episode of That's Incredible came on. Now watching that episode now, it actually is the people who bought the house afterwards trying to debunk the fact that, you know, this wasn't haunted, nothing ever happened to them, and half the things that the people in the house had said had happened actually hadn't happened, and they had proof of it, and so on and so forth. But little me watching TV as a kid, all I remember seeing is, you know, another show publicising the Amityville Horror case and house and showing footage from inside the actual house and all that. And I remember again, like, really getting freaked out by that. Years later, I've also got the original book that my sister had when we were young, like the original 1970s paperback of that. And I read that not too long after this, and I've always been like fascinated with the Amityville Horror as a result of that. But yeah, that did my head in because of the news. Like, you know, at that age, seeing the evening news with the weather and sport and all this kind of stuff, and then actually seeing stuff about a haunted house on there, being like, oh, really freaked out. Next would be The Omen, which came out in 1976. I remember watching that with my folks. It was put on for us. You know, we got to forgive, like in the 70s and stuff, ratings weren't as full on as they were right now. There wasn't as much information about movies. Like, parents would go to video shops and things like that and just pick up stuff that was on the popular shelf or whatever. So us 70s kids got to see a whole bunch of stuff that was probably not age appropriate through no fault of our parents, which is the fact that there wasn't a widely publicized, you know, rules and stipulations about what was appropriate for kids and what wasn't when it came to entertainment and stuff back then. So The Omen, you know, is this classic movie which I adore to this day. Again, I'll play the trailer now.
This is not a human child. Make no mistake.
There are those who will die for him. There are those who will kill for him. Who is he? What does he want? Where did he come from? And can he be stopped? Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, The Omen. If this is the truth, where does it end?
So we watched this movie, and I got really scared in a scene where the two main characters had gone to a graveyard and they got attacked by a pack of dogs, and that really freaked me out. And then, just the overall tone of that movie, I think I was just more like spun out and, disturbed by the accidents taking place, killing all these people and stuff. And then obviously that climaxing with the classic scene with the photographer getting his head cut off by the pane of glass, and that just freaked me out. Like, that was probably the first gore I think I ever saw. And that really, really stayed with me. Again, love that movie to this day. But that scene was really impactful. I remember that first viewing very clearly, again being freaked out by the dog attack and that. Next would be Alien, which I went over in my review when I did my retrospective reviews for the Alien things, but specifically sneaking out. And I think my parents were more savvy on what should and shouldn't be shown to kids at that time, and not being allowed to watch Alien, but really wanting to know about it, and sneaking a look through the window and seeing the infamous chestburster scene, and that being like pretty gory and really good special effects and full on at the time, and that really, really got to me. But I didn't want to admit that I'd been watching it, otherwise I would have gotten into trouble and it would have stopped me from being able to see further things. Now, I didn't get to see the entire Alien movie until years and years later, and by that stage I'd moved on, I think, really from getting scared by movies and just was fascinated by thrills and gore and special effects and all that kind of stuff. But that scene I found really disturbing, and I think I imagined there'd be so much more to the movie as far as like violence and horrible things, when really that's the most horrific thing that happens in it. Next would be American Werewolf in London. My experience with this was pretty different in the fact that at the stage, that movie came out in 1981. It probably didn't hit video until 82, 83 or something. But my sister at the stage, who's 5, 6 years older than me, she worked in a video shop. So we're always in the video shop, taking home movies and all that kind of stuff. And the guy who ran that video shop had a TV up on the wall that was always playing his favorite movies or scenes from his favorite movies. When American Werewolf came out, he made like a cut tape that just had like all the gory bits and scary bits from the movie like all back to back, and it was just on loop, and he'd run it all the time. Again, being, I guess no one really followed up on that stuff. No rules or regulations for what you could play in public, or he just didn't give a shit. I stood there in that video shop and watched the transformation scene from American Werewolf. It was like the first thing I'd seen, and I'll show you the Moors attack now.
You really scared me, you shithead.
You gonna help me up or what?
Jack.
That scene was so impactful for me, the violence of it and the jump scare of the wolf coming out, and I remember being just like completely freaked out by that. All the dream sequences that David had throughout the movie with the forest dreams and the neo-Nazi zombie creature guys coming to his house in his other dream, and Jack and the condition Jack was in when he visited him in the hospital, and just the believability of the special effects and the transformations and all. Like, I love that movie. I'll probably do a retro review of just that movie at some point. I love it that much. Like, that was like really it. I just remember being, again, freaked out and not wanting to admit that I was freaked out by things for fear that my parents would be like, "Oh, cool, you're not watching any of that kind of stuff because it's doing your head in." Now, I saw the movie not too long after that in its entirety, but those scenes, like that night, I remember them staying with me really hardcore, like being really freaked out by Jack's like flappy bit of skin on the side of his neck from the werewolf bite and all that. That was really intense. My next memory of a film that was pretty much still at the time that actually scared me was when the original Nightmare on Elm Street came out. That came out in '84, so I was like 12 at the time. I reckon that I would have seen it. That was right at the end of when I'd really just burned myself out seeing as much as I could. you know, with or without my parents' permission. The beauty was I had a friend who lived next door, and his parents didn't give a shit what he watched, so he always had all this cool shit. So if I couldn't see something at home and I hadn't sneaked a look at it on my own, I could always go to this guy's house and we would watch his stuff together. So when I first saw Nightmare on Elm Street, I saw it with this dude, and I didn't want to admit in front of him that I was like scared, so I remember sitting there all kind of rigid and poker faced, but just like getting freaked out. The whole concept of, you know, dreams, and Freddy was really scary in that first movie. The opening kill with, you know, Tina getting like lifted up in the air and cut by invisible knives and thrown around the roof and all the blood and all that kind of stuff was a pretty intense scene and a really, really well done special effect at the time. And then Freddy cutting his fingers off and slashing his guts and all that kind of stuff, and just the terror of it, the noise of the knives on the metal pipes and things like that. Fantastic soundtrack to that movie. In fact, a lot of the movies I've mentioned today also had good complementary soundtracks that really, really helped hammer home like the effectiveness of the, you know, tension and scares and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, Elm Street had a great soundtrack. You know, Robert Englund was fantastic. Freddy's a great idea for a character. It was really well executed. And yeah, I remember, like, you know, that freaking me out, the whole concept of, you know, you're not safe in your dreams and all that kind of stuff. And I think the last one I'd talk about before I was completely just done would be with the first time I saw The Evil Dead. Evil Dead was made in '83. I doubt I would have seen it until '84 or '85. I think there was a long time when that movie had censorship issues and was, you know, it was taking a long time to come out, and all might not have even come out until, yeah, '84, I reckon, in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. But seeing that was the most violent thing I'd ever seen. You know, The Evil Dead, to see that when it came out, like, there'd not really been a movie like that before of such intensity. Like, the violence was ferocious, as low budget as it was so well shot, and the effects were, you know, really well done for practical effects back then. It was pretty believable at the time, and that really freaked me out. It was brutally violent, it was very intense. It's a short movie, it's really well paced, great sound, great camera work. Like, yeah, that really sort of, that did it for me big time. But I remember again, like, being so just on the edge of my seat and freaked out, like, watching it and being so, you know, just surprised by how far it went from a violence perspective. And that was just then, it was a tidal wave, you know. By that stage, you know, it hit the mid-'80s when the slasher genre sort of took over, and video shops just constantly had straight-to-video as well as theatrical release horror. And every time I'd go to the video shop, it'd be new movies I'd not seen. Later on, my auntie ran a video shop, so I always had access to this stuff. So it was just this never-ending income of like every horror movie I could possibly see and watch. And I just diluted any fear out of there. I wouldn't say I've been scared by a movie really ever since, probably The Evil Dead. You know, I'll give credit to certain sequences of other movies. Like, say, for example, the first time I saw the Blair Witch Project, which I knew nothing about the first time I watched it. The movie set a pretty good pace, and it was pretty tense, and, you know, it's very divisive. People either love it or they hate it. But I remember, you know, having a moment of being freaked out, specifically when the three of them were in their tent, and the tent actually got attacked by the ghosts of children or something. You hear kids laughing outside, and the tent's shaking like fuck, and they're freaking out, and they, you know, run off into the woods screaming and whatnot. Like, that was an intense scene, and that was really good. The rest of the movie, you know, like, it didn't affect me like that one moment did. Be the same as in the first Paranormal Activity, although it's a tense movie and it's okay, and it's another handycam thing. That one shot, dude, of that, like, girl's foot slowly coming out of the side of the bed when she's been grabbed by something by the ankle, and then she just gets dragged down the hallway. And so many movies have ripped off that, getting dragged away from the camera by something unseen thing since then. Like, that was, you know, a very, very well done moment that, you know, it's just one little thing. But overall, video games can still scare me here and there, like I would have said in my Resident Evil 7 VR review. But movies, you know, I wish that I could get scared by them like I did when I was a kid, but it's not going to happen. So that's my top movies of stuff that really, really got to me when I was young and did that childhood trauma, and moments where I was like, you know, too terrified to admit that I'd seen or watched something for fear that I wouldn't be able to watch more, but, you know, always having that craving to see more and more and more and more. I'd love to know what you guys think, you know, if you want to leave in the comments, like, movies that affected you in that manner, or, you know, follow the Dominion reviews and playthroughs on Facebook and leave comments or ideas there. I'd love to hear from you. But that's what I love about horror, is everybody has a unique experience about how they got into it and what, you know, really, really affected them, that curbed their path to really sort of seek out this dark media. And that was my list. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed doing it myself. I, you know, got to really think about these things and go back and try and trace that arc of how I got from where I was to where I am. And like I said, please leave some comments and ideas. I'll be back later this week with my Spider-Man review, which I'm really looking forward to. Thanks for supporting the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.